I always felt ashamed that I was in addiction, like women shouldn't carry on like that. To be seen hanging around on the streets and taking drugs just wasn't right, and I felt like everyone was judging me for being a woman and getting myself into that position. I tried to hide it and cover it, and I wouldn't ask for help or anything because my thinking was that I shouldn't have been in the situation in the first place, do you know? I ended up hurting myself more. There's a saying, I'm not in recovery, I'm in discovery. And I think that's bang on. You have to go back to the start to figure out what happened to you and why in order to begin healing. I don't even know how I found out about spray cans and nail varnish and stuff, but I started on them when I was 8 or 9. My mother would find me passed out on the floor. I'd pass out every time and I wouldn't even remember doing it. That carried on for a long time. When I was 13, I was smoking hash with a group of other kids and I got panicky from it. One of the lads gave me a couple of benzos to calm me down. They took the paranoia away. They made me feel calm. From then on, tablets were always my drug of choice because they were what would stop my head from spinning. By the time I was 16, my parents weren't in my life, and myself and my brothers had to fend for ourselves. But a lot of stuff happened to me around that time where I needed my mother. I needed that support, and it wasn't there. Yeah, there was stuff happening, and I was self-harming a lot. I've got tattoos to cover the scars now. I managed to stay in school till 5th year, trying to pretend like nothing was wrong, but I'd be out of my head. The teachers didn't know what to do with me. They knew I was out of it, but they couldn't prove it. After I left, I'd done FOSS for 3 years or so, but I was out of my head then too. I found out later that there were a couple of girls who were in recovery themselves who used to sit with me and look after me and make sure I got home okay. I didn't realise that's what was happening at the time. I thought everybody was on the same buzz I was. I tried to cover up what I was doing by taking courses, trying to get an education to cover up the fact that I was suffering inside. I tried to make everything look perfect on the outside, but lying all the time was killing me on the inside. You're constantly lying and telling more lies to cover those. And so every time you lie, there's 101 stories going on top of that. And then there's the guilt of lying. Waking up every day was a nightmare. I had a problem with alcohol, but tablets overtook that, and things started to get worse. That's when I realised, Marianne, you have got to do something. I was about 26 by that time. Bad things used to happen when I lost control, and that was kind of in the back of my head as well. This little grip of control you have left is going to go if you don't do something. Addiction was common in my family. Out of myself and 5 siblings, 4 of us struggle with addiction. My younger brother and sister don't because my mother took them out of the town where we grew up. I look at them now and I think, when I was their age, I was in trouble with guards, passing out on the road and not knowing what I'd done the next day, waking up in cells, in mental hospitals. They've had totally different lives. You wouldn't think that we were the same family. But I suppose they grew up with us telling them never to go down that road, you know. I didn't have that. Even though I couldn't find a way out myself at the time, I didn't want them following me into that life. It's dangerous to try and detox from benzos on your own. Much more dangerous than heroin. But I didn't know the right way to go about getting help. I resisted treatment for a long time, but I'd heard about Merchant's Quay and St. Francis Farm, and eventually I knew I needed help because it wasn't just the drugs, it was my head. The mental health side of things had gotten so bad. I was ashamed of what I'd done and who I'd become. When I went to treatment, I only told my close family. I tried to hide what I was doing my whole life, so it was difficult to admit how bad it had got. While I was in addiction, I had a friend who I'd grown up with who was also in addiction. And even then, we'd never admit it to each other. We'd only talk about what we'd quit. Oh, I'm clean from them now, even though we'd be on other drugs. The two of us were looking at each other suffering, but we'd never say it. And that's the isolation of addiction. Even if you're around people, you're still on your own because you're suffering in silence. In treatment, I had trouble talking in groups though because of what was drilled into me as a child about being a woman and how I shouldn't act in such and such a way. So I didn't want to say certain things in front of the men in the group. They were lovely, but I just felt I shouldn't be saying this out loud. I do think women should have the option of an all-female service and one where you could bring kids in because that would make a big difference and it would mean a lot more women seeking help. I'm coming to terms with my life. There are still things I'm ashamed of, things that make me cringe to think about, but I have to remember it wasn't all my fault. And all the time, I've been carrying other people's shame as well as my own. Those of us who have gone through Merchant's Quay, we are lucky. We get to start our life again, you know? We can choose our path. Anything is possible. At the moment, I'm over 2 years drug-free. There's a huge difference between then and now. I still struggle every day, but it's nothing compared to what I used to be, you know? I don't want to kill myself when I wake up in the morning. I don't want to make myself go to sleep at night just to stop my head spinning. But there's still challenges, like it is still tough. Recovery is something you have to fight for every day. Yeah. Every minute of every day.